the best piece of advice that you followed that you believe made you a better entrepreneur?
Be yourself. You cannot be somebody else. You have to be yourself. Everybody has their own special sauce, okay? And everybody has something that's special about them. I mean, there's a gazillion lawyers in the world, right? I have a special thing that my clients like. And you have a special thing that your clients in whatever industry that you are going to be in like as well. And it's important to be yourself, not somebody else. Don't try to mimic your coach or your friend or your whoever that's also doing the same thing. Be yourself. Have your own little spin on something.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. I am so excited. Today, we have another episode of our special series, One Tough Chick, where we are interviewing female entrepreneurs who have bossed up big. And through our interview, they share their stories of their journey to becoming a female boss. So excited to welcome to the podcast today Angela Hoover, who is a family attorney, very successful, and the Angel Queen. And I'm going to let her give an expanded bio. But just to tell you a little bit about that, is part of her Angel Queen journey. She is bringing the woo to mainstream and helping women, professional women, find their inner divine and lead their lives with confidence and grace. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So, what I wanted to start out with is let you give a little bit more of an expanded bio because everybody loves the story of somebody's journey. And you have a very interesting journey with two sides of two businesses, if you will. And I'll let you characterize that. But can you please share kind of your journey to where you are today and both sides of your business?
Absolutely, I would love to. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think there are so many people who feel like they are living two different lives. And for so long, I really felt that way as well. So when I was little, I realized that I had a gift to be able to talk to angels. And I grew up in an amazing household. My parents always cultivated all of my interests. They allowed me to be whatever I was going to be. There was never anything that's weird. No, we everything that was weird in our household came from outside sources, other people saying that it was weird. So I really didn't ever feel weird about any of my gifts. And my parents are both lawyers and elected judges. And so I grew up with elections and things like that. And the rule in our household was you can be in the paper, but you better make sure that it's for something good,
I
right?
love that.
So I was always kind of like walking the straight and narrow. And I knew that my gifts were a little bit different than other people's because they weren't talking about the things that I was thinking and stuff like that. So I kind of kept it to myself, but I was always able to talk about it in my family. And then I grew up and I went to law school and I started my own practice because both of my parents, when they got out of law school, they hung a shingle out and they started their own businesses. And I was like, why would I want to work for somebody else when I can do this for myself and take the kind of clients that I really want and that kind of thing? And over the years, I noticed that I was using the lessons that I was learning from talking with my angels and talking with the divine in my practice and with my clients. I wouldn't tell them, well, Archangel Michael said, whatever, whatever, but I would give them advice based on, what I was feeling. And then I met someone and I stopped communicating completely with that part of myself. And I stopped having those conversations. And my life really went badly for the entirety of that relationship because I wasn't cultivating that side of myself anymore.
Mm.
And it was a terrible relationship. We ended up getting married. We talked about a divorce on our honeymoon. It was horrible. I would have clients come in and say things to me, and I would be like, "Oh, honey, we're going to get you out of that situation immediately. You shouldn't be in that situation." All the while I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, she's just described my life. I need to get out of this too." So a few years ago, back in 2017, asked I asked for a sign. And it was the first time that I had really been in touch with the spiritual side of myself in almost a decade. And I asked for a sign, and signs come constantly. It's just whether we're paying attention to the signs. And I had not been paying attention to the signs and had been stepping them down. So I asked for a really big sign about whether I should stay in this relationship or go. And a few minutes later, I was outside walking my dog. I slipped, I fell. I hit the side of my building with my face. I still have a little scar here. So I hit the side of the building with my face and my left hand, and then I fell backwards and broke my leg. And as I was laying there, my hand started throbbing. My left hand was throbbing. And so I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, I knew my leg was broken. I was like, oh my gosh, really? You had to break my hand?
Wow.
And Archangel Michael appeared and said, "Yes, we did have to break your hand because you have not been paying attention to any of the signs." And guess what was broken? It was my left ring finger. So
Mm,
I had to take my ring off because my hand was swelling. And that was the last time I wore the ring. We got divorced. And after my divorce, I was able to heal pretty fast as far as emotionally and spiritually. And I was like, you know what? Other people need this too. It shouldn't just be those of us who have this connection, and everybody has the connection, by the way. It's just whether you cultivate it and use
right.
it. It shouldn't be just those of us who have the connection and use it that get to heal quick. Everyone should be able to do that. So the angel queen was born. I love everything sparkly and fancy, and I love wings and crowns and things like that. And I think every woman should feel like a queen all the time. So I have the angel queen and I help women with their confidence, but also not to be the B word, we also use the grace as well.
Love that. I'll tell you what, it's so inspiring to hear you share that, and thank you for giving us that detail on that path that you took. And my question in listening to you, and obviously, Angela and I have known each other for a while, have become friends, and I love hearing about all of the steps that she took to get where she is through our different conversations. But I'm wondering, as were sharing your story, I was thinking, was it I know you got the sign, but was it really clear where you were going the entire time? Or did you kind of have an idea and it just materialized as you stepped forward?
No, things evolve and materialize. I don't think that we would be shown I think there's a reason we aren't shown the entire roadmap of our life because we'd
Yeah.
be like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that have happened along the way that if I had known they were going to happen beforehand, I'd be like, nope, not doing that. I would have gotten in this relationship if I had known how it was going to be and how it was going to really affect me. Because there was a lot of time in my life that I was hating on myself
Mm,
for allowing the things that were happening in this relationship. I mean, I am a strong, powerful professional woman with a doctorate degree, and I was allowing somebody to take my money and be abusive towards me physically, emotionally, financially. Oh no.
yeah.
And I was telling other people, oh no, you can't allow that. But I was allowing it myself. So I really hated myself for a while. And I had to forgive myself before I could move on and before I could do anything else. And that is so, so important. Whatever you have to do to forgive yourself, you have to take that step. But if I had known all these horrible things were gonna happen in that relationship, there's no way I would have done it. But if I hadn't been in that relationship, I probably wouldn't be helping other people with their confidence and their grace. I would just be living my very cool life that I had.
Yeah, so I'm thank you for saying that because I think that's one of the big takeaways, right? I never want to characterize that for someone else, but I hear that from other people who have had not the same journey but similar journey in terms of a negative circumstance actually becoming part of the path that led them to somewhere else even though in the moment it was bad.
Right.
So I love that you can embrace that and own that as part of your journey and I think that that's an important message that everyone kind of should reflect on because it really does bring you to another place. And I agree that I think showing the whole life, we would be so paralyzed saying, not doing that, no way. So I'm happy to hear that that's was your journey as well because I think that a lot of people could resonate that can resonate with a lot of people this in the same way to realize that. So I'm curious in terms of and again, this is like what I love about what you do is you have such different activities, right? With the Angel Queen and with being an attorney, although you've said that you're using your gifts with helping your clients or guiding them or what have you. So, but in terms of becoming a leader and being a business owner, can you talk about a lot of women, I think, have struggled and faced a lot of barriers and challenges to become a leader. Can you share a little bit about your journey? Do you have experiences? I hear from a lot of people that say they have to work harder to gain respect. Could you share what your experience was like?
My experience is a little bit different. I really didn't have to work harder to gain respect by being a woman because I was in a situation where I have grown up in a household
Yeah,
where there were lawyers.
yeah.
So, just by virtue of having that legal talk around me constantly, I was able to talk the talk immediately upon my exit of law school. And really, even before that, I did all of the mock trial kinds of things when I was growing up and all of those things. And so I really didn't have that problem. And I credit my parents significantly for the confidence that I have. Because they were always building me up no matter what I wanted to do. If it was something that was going to positively influence my life, they were like, go for it. We're 100% behind you. You can do anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do, and nothing can hold you back. And I am actually, which is really kind of rare because I'm from the South, I'm actually a third generation college graduate on my mom's side of the family. My grandmother got a business degree
Wow.
in the 1940s.
Wow.
So, that's really unusual. So I think I have a little bit of a different circumstance, but I can relate to the others that have a different circumstance than me with the confidence to be a leader from that time in my life when I hated on myself
Mm,
and from that time in my life where I didn't feel good enough. And I think the not good enough feelings come across in just about every single person in some way or another. And when those not good enough feelings, enter, you have to really do something about them. And there a lot of this lesson comes in my spiritual journey as well, because I'm a lawyer, and so people give me credibility just because I have a law degree. Like, that seems silly to me, especially on the spiritual side,
mhm.
because it's not about that. It's not about the education. It doesn't matter. It's about the experiences and it's about being able to, move forward. So I think for me, being a leader kind of came a little bit naturally. But then I had that situation where I wasn't leading anybody, including myself. And I had to really like learn how to feel good enough as I was. Not good enough when I lose 15 pounds, not good enough when I make $1 million, not good enough when I, fix my hair a certain way or whatever. It's really feeling good enough right now for whatever you're doing in the moment and not worrying about what somebody else thinks. That is really the biggest thing because I was like, oh my gosh, what's everybody going to say if I get divorced? How can I do that? I just got married and we had almost a decade long relationship, but we were only married for 15 months. And, I was embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing that I couldn't make that work. But I had to get over the what's everybody going to say um, situation for me to be able to move forward. And I think that that's really what real leadership comes as. It's not that you don't care, it's that you don't care for yourself. You care what they feel and you care what feelings you're giving to them, but you're not taking it on for yourself. It's okay for somebody not to like me. There's tons of people that don't like me. That's okay. I'm okay with that. And there's people I don't like too, and that's okay. It's allowing the feelings not to become your own feelings about yourself. And I really think that has a lot to do with leadership.
Thank you for sharing that because leadership is being able to look within and develop ourselves and have that confidence. So I love that you how you articulated your journey, even though you had that unbelievable support and family structure and ability to build that foundation of confidence. It really is a journey internally no matter what situation you're in, that you have to go inward to develop that confidence and maintain it. Because that's something that I think you just shared, that you can have it, but boy, if you get in a situation where it can question it, you really have to be doing that inner work to be able to come to, no matter what you face, be able to have that confidence and bring that to, and that love for yourself, because if we don't love ourselves, we can't care and support others, and that's what leadership is. So I love that that you shared that.
That's not to say that you shouldn't be holding yourself accountable, because you absolutely should. You have to be accountable for your actions. And I think that's another really important role or important part of leadership as well, is you
100%.
take accountability for the stuff that you do wrong. I do wrong stuff all the time, but I'm okay to say, you know what, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that way. I shouldn't have done that thing. I'm sorry, or I will work on doing that differently in the future. So I think accountability is really good. So just because we're working on not hating on ourselves doesn't mean we, get a pass for everything we do. We have to take accountability as well.
Absolutely. And it is a foundation or a tenet of leadership for sure, to be accountable and it really do that examination of what's my part in this, right? So
Yes.
developing that confidence, but oh, and not just as a leader, just as a human being, right? Is
Right.
being able to reflect on our own behavior and actions and when we could do better, but still loving ourselves, right? Not beating
Yes.
ourselves, improving and evolving as a human. I love that. So what I'm curious, and I would love for you to share is, with the two sides of your business, I think people always like to hear, especially people who either are trying to grow their own business, start their own business, where at whatever point they're at. With your two businesses, do you have a different structure in terms of, and I would imagine you do, but I want you to share that, in terms of the support, the team that you have, your key players on both sides in your attorney business and in your Angel Queen business.
Yes, I have totally different structures in both of the businesses. So in my attorney business, I'm obviously a lawyer and I have a paralegal. And I also, my dad works with me in my law firm as well. And so we have, a lot more of a structured you know, this is the form for this. This is
Right.
the form for that. This is the way that we do these particular kinds of cases. And, we have to keep up with all of the files and all of the clients. And we have a calendaring system and all of that. And in my Angel Queen business, it's a lot more go with the flow.
Hmm.
And it's a lot more of okay, it's less regimented, I guess. And it's also just me. I don't hire things out in my Angel Queen business except for the stuff that I'm terrible at. For example, graphics. I have an awesome graphics guy because I'm terrible at stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so I think that's really important that you get somebody that complements you whenever you're growing the business, when it's time for you to bring on other people. So I haven't felt it necessary to bring on another person in my Angel Queen business yet, because I'm hiring out some things that I don't do well. And things like a graphic might take them 5 minutes to put together, but it would take me days or weeks of worrying about it and trying to figure it out and doing those things. So I think, like, as businesses are growing, I think it's really important for leaders and owners and founders to not be afraid to spend a little bit of money on the things that you aren't good at. I'm a big idea person. My paralegal is a big details person. So it's really good that I have somebody that compliments me that way. And there's tons of like personality tests that you can use if you're going to hire somebody full time in your business or something like that, that you can, know. I think you should definitely know what you are on all the different tests. And then you can know what the person is that you're hiring, whatever their personality type is as well. If you have two big idea people and you really need a details person, then, that's something that you have to adjust in your business. And it may be that you hire a big ideas person who ends up being a partner or something like that in your business, which is great. But my biggest advice is, don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money to hire people out. And if you don't have the money, or you think that you don't have the money, you do, because abundance is a mindset. then find something to sell so that you can hire that person.
Yeah.
Everybody has something that they could sell. Anybody who has a business, sell time if you have to. I'm not an advocate of selling time, okay? One of my businesses is fully selling time and the
Yes.
other one is not.
Hmm.
I much prefer not selling time, but that's just the way the legal industry works is we sell time.
Right.
So, um but sell your time if you have to until you get enough money to reach the people that you need to hire in your business. Or go to discount kind of places to get people. Like for me with the graphic design, there's like all kinds of websites that you
Yeah.
can hire people for as little as $5
Yes.
to do graphic design and things like that.
Yeah. Fiverr, Upworks, there's all kinds of solutions these
Yeah,
days for sure. But I think the biggest takeaway that I really wanted to highlight, and I'm so glad that you said that, is it really is important as a leader, as a business owner, as no matter what kind of business you have, is understanding your strengths and what you're not good at and being
right.
okay with and having the humility to say, I'm not good at this, so let me have somebody else to do it. That's key. Strengths finders, Colby, all kinds of things that you can use that you mentioned, these assessments, to be able to know what your strengths are, what your team strengths are. And that's important to really have that variety and that support and the comparison, not the comparison, but the differences in terms of weaknesses and strength joined together to really create that strong foundation. Um, but as far as spending the money, the one thing that I also wanted to underscore in what you said is, yeah, a lot of people say, I don't have the money to do this. And again, that's not really the abundance mindset. That comes from a place of lack. But I also think that people have to understand where they're spending their own time. You said it would take you forever if you could even, do graphics. Like your time is worth money.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I know when I created my business, I was working a full-time job, so I had limited time. What's your billable rate in terms of, how many hours are you spending doing something? It's cheaper to have somebody else do it for you. And
Yes,
it'll cost less and save you a lot of time for sure.
that's right.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One of the things that, you had mentioned in giving your bio and sharing your story is that you said that in your household growing up, you had support for anything you wanted to do.
Okay.
When you wanted to create this angel queen, I know your parents have always supported this gift you have. Was there displeasure in that? Was there discouragement because your family is so entrenched in law and that kind of was your path that you had followed and followed in footsteps of your family? Was there support for that? And if there was, what would you say to someone who doesn't have that support for their entrepreneurial dream?
Have always had support. So, yes, it's not a problem. My parents are really big advocates of being happy,
Mm,
and living the life that you want to live and really, deciding what you want. That's the first thing is you have to decide what you want, right? A lot of people have no idea what they want. What do you want? I don't know. And that's a really big thing. So, first deciding what you want, and then secondly, figuring out a way to build it. Okay. Or if you can't figure it out yourself, allowing it to come and allowing it in without putting a bunch of, well, if I do this, then I've got to do that. If I do this, I'm going to do that. No, you just allow it to come or you build it intentionally. And so I always had support even when I was doing this angel queen thing. I really like didn't ask permission to do the angel queen thing except for myself.
mm,
And that's a really big thing is a lot of people feel like they have to have permission to spend money or permission to do this. I was single when I started the angel queen business, so I didn't have a spouse that I needed to, run things by or whatever. But what I have found is a lot of people have unsupportive spouses and unsupportive family members. And if you feel that you are in that kind of a situation, then the best thing that you can do is find the support somewhere else from your friends, from your maybe a different loved one. And you do it that way, and you can really build a community. Maria and I met in a business group,
mhm.
and it's a really, great community of people. And the community was supportive of everybody else. And now with social media, there's so many ways to find supportive communities and supportive people. They may not physically be in the same area as you, but you can communicate through FaceTime, through Zoom, through, text messages, Voxer, all of those kinds of things. And some of my very best friends live on other ends of the country from me because I've met them and I've cultivated those relationships. And you know what? If I need support when I'm not really feeling it from, whoever, then I'll go to those friends. So I think that you can create the support that you need through your friendships. And if you are in such a situation that is so narcissistic that you don't feel like you're allowed to have friends, then I would encourage you to evaluate that situation and what you really want to do about that.
That's great advice. And I think that that's great that you have the support no matter what you want to do. And I would agree with you that obviously getting the support elsewhere is really important. But you did mention, and I wanted to touch on that, giving the permission to yourself. That definitely is something that I've shared in the past is that I didn't have that model of entrepreneurship in my family. So everybody thought I was crazy. And I even thought I was crazy for a while. Like, who are you to do this? What are you going to leave a stable job? Blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people who want to go out on their own struggle with that. And I would agree that gaining that support and being able to then address that inner talk that says, who are you to do this? And be able to say, no, I can do this, and I give myself permission to do this is really important to take a step forward. So many people, I think, have followed a path that is not theirs. And then being able to break away from that is an important step, and having that support is a key piece of that for sure.
I think when you are really in the flow of what you are meant to do during this lifetime, that it flows so easily
Oh, yes.
that it's not a problem anymore. It's just a matter of figuring that out and then allowing yourself to take the first step. Listen, you don't have to. I couldn't have imagined how the Angel Queen was going to evolve, and if I had of it wouldn't be the way that it has. But I've allowed it to evolve, and if you're allowing your situation to evolve in a good way
Hmm.
and in a supportive way for other people. And I think that's like a really big thing for me is my role is to support other people in this lifetime. I am supporting them with my law practice. I'm dealing with other people's problems, every day on that, but I'm also supporting them with the Angel Queen business in their confidence and their grace and allowing themselves to connect with their own inner divine and to have that amazing connection because you don't always have to look outside of yourself for the support.
That's true.
Um, but here's the thing, if you've got, the little devil over here saying, you're not good enough, you can't do that. How dare you even think about doing that? You've got to have a really big angel over here saying, you are amazing, go girl, do whatever you want. You
Yeah.
can absolutely do that. And then follow this angel's advice to take that first tiny step. And I would encourage everybody to have little benchmarks for yourself. They could be financial, they could be how you're feeling. There could be lots of different things, but have small attainable things to begin with, in addition to your huge goals that you have no idea how you're going to achieve those things, but that's your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, and recently I was reading and talking about something on another episode, talking about this idea of having that fuzzy target, right? I think so many people, and myself, I could resonate with this, get hung up on it's got to be exactly this, and I don't know what it is yet. So how do I step forward? Like it could be a fuzzy target, like it can be something that's out in the distance that you're headed towards. Just take that first step and keep taking those steps towards that, and it will come into focus. It's almost like a camera, like that starts to focus it. And when you start to arrive and being in the flow, as you mentioned, then it is when it really starts to become clear. And you really have to take those steps to be able to let that evolve and have that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
great.
you've got to ignore the who am I to do that?
Yeah,
How could I possibly do that?
yeah,
Why
yeah,
would you do that? I mean, the why is okay, but the how could I do that? Forget about it. Don't worry about it. Let the universe figure that out.
yes. Yeah. And, I had mentioned that I definitely said that, leaving a really stable, great job, I was always saying, "Well, how am I gonna do this? Who are you to do this? I can't do this." And I had to really work myself through that. I did have help. I did have support where somebody kind of nudged me out of that and be like, "You're not so stuck," you know? But I think that that is critical to be able to have that voice and be able to develop that, to be able to knock yourself off of that. I think sometimes it's just fear that's holding us back.
Absolutely. You've got to work through that fear and give yourself permission to do these things. And you know what? What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take this one step and it doesn't work exactly the way that you thought it did. Okay, then pivot, do something different.
Yeah.
Do it a different way.
Yeah. And that's true too. Like a lot of people think that a path to success is a straight line. And it never is, no matter what kind of life, business, whatever you're creating, it's never a straight line. It's lots of twists and turns. So it's really about being able to recognize that and accept that and be able to just keep moving forward and pivoting left and right, and you'll end up getting there. But it's like if you're not embracing those pivots, you're not embracing those steps, even embracing those failures, like you learn a lot more failing many times than the successes, depending on how you handle it. So it gets you to another place.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. We talked a little bit about, and you shared your experiences being a woman, and so such a blessing that you didn't have that experience of that inequality. But I just like, without getting too deep in the weeds with this, just what do you think in terms of equal treatment and just different types of inequality, and for women in particular, or any other types of inequality? What do you think people, or we as a community, society, what do you think you've seen, and what do we need to do about that from your perspective?
I think that, specifically for women, we have to stand in our feminine power. I think that we're trying too hard as a society of women to be men. We are not men. We have different strengths than men. Women run this world, okay? A. And if we were all like men, we wouldn't be running this world. Um, it's okay to be nurturing. It's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to show your feelings and do those things, even in business. I have, several clients I that I have and that are my clients, both in both businesses, because I am able to be feminine and show my feminine side. I mean, I basically show up to court looking like Elle Woods and Legally Blonde a lot of the time. Okay. And I'm okay with that because that's me. It's not me to show up in a fully like gray suit. Okay. I don't do well when I'm doing those kinds of things. So I think it's okay to be different than what we think we should be like, okay? And I think it's really important for everybody to be authentically themselves. And that really will help women moving forward because we're not trying to be, or I don't think we ought to be trying to be the man and standing in masculine energy. We have feminine energy for a reason. And I think we don't use it enough. And I think we ought to be using that. And that's really something that I'm an advocate of is, using that feminine energy and standing in your own power, not somebody else's power. You can't be like the other person. You can't be me. You can't be Maria. You have to be your own person and you have to be authentically your own person. And I think if more people were authentic and not acting like they think they should act, I would love to get rid of the word should.
Mm.
Ugh.
Mhm.
Get rid of how they think they should be and just be. Then I think we would be a lot better as a society and as people with the inequality. I think it's hard to change a mindset and we have generational mindsets, going on, but I think that, roles are changing and women are becoming, more important in society and more taking on more leadership roles that are in the open and that are really important leadership roles and things like that. I think the um, political debate is disheartening personally
Mm.
because we are, categorizing ourselves as against the other side. And I really think it's more of, okay, we can have different opinions and different ideas and still be decent human beings. And I think really, if everybody was just a decent human being, it would be okay. But some people choose not to be, and you have to rise above that, and you have to be your own decent human being and stand in your own authenticity.
Totally agree. I mean, and I think I would agree with you that being authentic is the best thing that we can do individually. And I think the more that, but I also think that, society getting rid of the shoulds, like judgment of what a woman is, what a man is, what a wife is, what a husband is, what a this, what a that. That also, I think, as we are all more authentic and claim our own power, that will hopefully start to fall away, because I think many people start to shapeshift and wear the gray suit because that's what's modeled, and that's how you're supposed to be,
Right.
or the role you're supposed, or what you're supposed to look like in the picture. And I like that you brought up Elle Woods, because that movie, that Clueless in itself, is just the epitome of being who you are, despite what the parameters that are supposedly set in that environment are for you. So I think the more we do that as women and men, right, and drop those shoulds and this and that, just I think that's going to help to move us forward, and to be able to show that we are brave enough to be authentic, and not live up to some label that somebody else has placed on our role or our position.
Absolutely. I think we've really got to get rid of the mindset that we can't have it all because we absolutely can.
Yeah. So it's funny because the lead into this question is about labels. And so I'm curious if I think having a label placed upon you, I'm wondering if you ever had that. And I know, you talked about being feminine, but powerful and strong. And I would agree. And I've also been labeled strong, assertive, sometimes aggressive. And sometimes that's not always a positive. I own that, but not everybody um, puts that value for me in that trait. So I'm wondering if you have ever been labeled, and if that has impacted you negatively, and what did you do about it?
Oh, yeah, I've been labeled every single day of my life. I get a label from somebody at some point. So, in my law practice, if I'm dealing with a new lawyer that doesn't know me or hasn't ever been around me, I am underestimated constantly because I show up looking like Elle Woods
Hmm.
and I have a Southern accent. And so, when I'm dealing with people that aren't from the South and my accent comes out, they think it's cute. I get things like that said to me. And then um, you know, I must be a dumb blonde. And my mom is a trial court judge here in the state of Tennessee. And so she got this for a long time before me. So I was used to her dealing with it and I saw the things that she would do to deal with that. And I think that the best way to deal with a label is to show somebody who you really are. So if they put that label on me before I walk into a courtroom, that label has changed by the time I walk out of the courtroom. And so I use it to my advantage because people underestimate, especially women. You are being underestimated a lot. Okay. And you can use that to your advantage. So you can do the best job that you possibly can do and flip that label around. So it is something totally opposite than it was when you walked in. Now, as far as, I'm pretty assertive and I've also been called aggressive and maybe the B word a few times too. And
Hmm.
that's fine with me.
Same.
There. Call me that, whatever. I'm doing me and I'm being me and I'm not being nasty to somebody. I'm just asserting myself and it's okay to assert yourself. But I think that the best thing that you can do is just show people who you are really so that they realize that their label was wrong. And look, people form opinions within the first few seconds of meeting you or seeing you for the first time, and they form opinions based on all kinds of things, the way that you look, your facial expression, different things like that. And sometimes we can't help what people think about us, but you can't take it on as your own thing. You have to love yourself enough not to worry about what they're thinking.
For sure. And that is really true. Like, the one thing to keep in mind all the time is even about humans. Humans, it's like it's Malcolm Gladwell that said that blink, like it's the first few seconds. There's all kinds of prejudging that happens. Always. It's a human response. And so we have to know that and absolutely um disprove whatever it is, give that person who you are and really let them see who you really are. But also know that we have to do that for others as well because it is a human response. And being aware
Yes.
of that is really important so that we can kind of see through what that prejudgment, kind of that snap judgment always leads us to. So I love that you talked about earlier about your mindset, right? And doubt about who you are or what you can do or what you can accomplish. And, I really like to highlight different, frameworks for breaking through those barriers. Do you have kind of in a nutshell, like a few steps that people can take to combat that self-doubt and that negative talk? I know you have a lot of things and resources that you do and programs that help people do that. But if you could break it down to just some quick steps of how to get started or what the most important steps are, could you characterize that and give us that?
Yeah, I sure will. So, I do certain things every single day, and I am a big advocate of having little routines that aren't so structured that it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't done my routine yet. I've got to get that done. I only have 2 minutes to do my thing. No, it's not like that. So, when I was healing from my divorce, one thing that I learned that I love to tell other people about is every time I walked through a door, any door, the door to my bedroom, the door to my kitchen, the door to my office, the door to whatever. I told myself in my head, I love you. And it became a routine, and I still do it. Every time I walk through a door, I tell myself I love me. And it's really hard. Okay. If you have not told yourself you love you for the first days, weeks, months, maybe, it's going to be difficult for you to say this because you don't yet believe it. So, what I tell people is I'm a huge advocate of affirmations, by the way. Affirmations all the way, every single day for me. And I love them and I love telling them to other people and helping other people with them as well. But for me, the most important affirmation is I love you, talking to yourself. And I think it's important for us to say that as much as we can. And if you don't yet believe that you love yourself, you can say, I'm learning to love you. I love this thing about you. Like I've always had pretty eyes, so I tell my eyes I love them when I didn't believe that I loved anything else. And listen, there might be people on this podcast that are like, her eyes aren't that great. And that's okay. But I love my eyes.
Mhm.
So I told my eyes for a long time that I loved them before I could move to other things. And if you have just like something about you that you love, maybe it's your ability to play an instrument. Maybe it's your singing voice. Maybe it's your hair, your nails, your whatever. Um, Anything. Maybe you're a good mom, any of those things. Good spouse, good worker, good whatever. Tell yourself that you love that about yourself every time you walk through a door and make it a habit. And then once you believe whatever it is that you're saying, then you can move it up to something bigger, like, I love you just in general.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have to share this, and I'm telling you this for the first time. I'm going to ask you to share a little bit about where people can find information about your 100 days to loving yourself. And we just came off that, right? And
Yes.
I participated kind of, sort of, really gung ho in the beginning and then fell off. But I would be lying if I didn't say that me looking in the mirror and saying, because that was part of the homework, I love you wasn't difficult at first. It was difficult. It was like I had to kind of do it like, "Hey, I love you," kind of like jokingly, really to be able to get myself to. But I would agree that that practice, and I love walking through a door because then you're tying it to something, and that's something that can easily remind yourself to do it. And the more you do it, um, then it becomes easier. And I remember you saying that at the beginning, and that really is true. Um, But I would agree that those affirmations, right? Saying something that leads you to it is a good step. And I just recently saw something, I think it was actually a viral video that was a teacher and took young students and made them step up to the mirror and say something that they loved about themselves. So similar to what you said, and some people said, I love my voice, I love my hair, I love my eyes, I love them strong. Like, and what an unbelievable practice to teach children if we could all have that foundation. And even if
Yes,
we,
please teach your
right?
children this,
Oh my
please.
goodness. And it was, you could see in that video some of the children struggling to kind of come up with something, but they all did. They all did. And seeing how that first step of doing that then could really have an impact, especially if they do that every day and they are trained to kind of look at themselves and find things they love about themselves. And the affirmations, I would agree. You have great affirmations, and you'll
Thank
share
you.
how to get access to those daily affirmations. But yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think that a lot of people struggle with doing that for themselves. So taking those steps and finding that routine. But I would agree not to be like, oh God, I'm so bad I didn't do it. It's like another thing to beat yourself up about. So that's great advice. Thank you for sharing all that. Let me ask you this. Because I like to highlight through these interviews different paths to building your dream. And a lot of people who start a business, people do it all different ways. People sometimes step into a family business, sometimes they borrow money from a family, sometimes they take a loan, sometimes they get venture capital, VC money, private equity, whatever. I would just love your opinion, whether you took that route or not, or whatever route you took. What would you say to people who have some barriers to starting a business because of barriers to capital? What's your best advice for them?
I think that barriers to capital are a huge problem, okay? You don't need a ton of money to start a business. For example, in Tennessee and in other states as well, to get a business license does not cost that much money, okay? It's $300 here. And in other places, it might be a little bit more, but it's not that much more. So, my suggestion is to sell something. Maybe it's, something in your house. Maybe it's your time. Maybe it's whatever to get the ball rolling to start the business. And then if you want venture capital, if you want to take out a loan, if you want to use money from family members or from friends or from whatever, then you have to decide what's right for you. So for me, my law business really funded my Angel Queen business until I started making money. But I wasn't spending a ton of money on my Angel Queen business because it's really an info product kind of a business. And, we do group things and stuff like that. So, and I sell readings and stuff like that. But I think like you can start making money doing whatever it is that you're going to do without the capital. It's really, you don't necessarily need brick and mortar. Like right now, my little studio for the Angel Queen is in my guest room at my house. Okay. I have an office for my law practice. I don't need an office for my Angel Queen business
Mm.
because I've got a place to do everything that I do for the Angel Queen at my house. So find creative ways to get moving, and especially if you can't, if you don't have a business, like the Angel Queen business is not a VC kind of a business. I
Right.
wouldn't be able to get venture capital for it.
Right.
So what I did is I set aside a very small amount from my money that I was making in my law practice to do that. And then, if I needed to increase it because I had a launch coming up or something like that, then I would. And if I needed to decrease it, then I would. So it's one of those things that like there are things that you can do to get moving that you don't necessarily need capital contributions for. And then if you come across a capital contribution, then awesome. You need to make a decision as to whether it's worth it to take that capital contribution. And in my law practice, I have a lot. I do this with some of my clients that have businesses, and they sometimes decide not to take that capital contribution because they don't want to deal with the other side of the capital contribution in having another partner or something like that. So you really have to make decisions because look, having a partner in a business is not for everybody.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
You've really got to trust that person and feel good about that person to be able to bring them in, even if they are contributing money to your business and maybe you're contributing the sweat equity.
Yeah.
Um, you have to be on the same page with that person. And sometimes people aren't. So it's really important to look at all sides of it before you actually make the decision to accept that capital contribution or the venture capital money, or, money from family members. A lot of times when people take money from family members or friends, they sort of have somebody in their business all the time. And if you do something that your family member thinks, well, that's kind of weird, I'm not sure I like that. Why are you doing that in your business? You're going to have to be able to answer those questions because they've made that contribution to your success. But if you're fine with that, sure, go ahead and take it. Why not? But I think that even if you have to trade time for money for a little bit to get you to the point where you have the capital to do whatever it is that you're going to do, then I think that's what you have to do.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I think that for sure, taking money, private equity, venture capital, what have you, a lot of people, that is important to consider, and something that, of course, I had to consider later on because I've had people approach me. I 100% own my business, and I don't have to confer with anybody about
Right.
permission to do what. But
Nice, right?
it's great. It is a personal choice, but I do think making that decision, you have to consider all those things. And also, somebody who I interviewed years back, she did what a lot of people have done, and I did that myself, is starting that side hustle that became a business while you're working a full-time job. You have a full-time career that's funding your Angel Queen business. Being able to do that and then keep it small and mighty, you have complete control. And she said, I don't want somebody to tell me use cheaper products to do this,
Right.
because then it's not what I envision to create. And once you have too many people in the soup, so to speak, you have people kind of directing that. So I think as a person building a business, you do have to consider all the elements of it. And definitely, there's a lot of talk about this, building a side hustle and building a business while working 9 to 5. I did that 15 years ago, and I think that is one of the best ways. And like you said, going, slow and trading time, setting a budget, you know, building that up, finding a way to do that is one of the best ways to get it going, where you don't have to entertain those things. But certainly, you know, there are definitely lots of opportunities and lots of paths, and making that choice is a personal one. But all those things need to be considered just besides the funding, because it does impact your freedom. It does impact a lot of different things.
And the biggest part of that really is to make the decision that's best for you
Hmm.
yourself. And also to see that there are a million different paths.
Hmm.
There's not just this one path
This is
of,
true.
oh my gosh, I don't have any credit. I don't have any funding. I don't have any equity. Doesn't matter. There's some path that you can take. Maybe you can guest on a podcast. Maybe you can, get on Facebook and do a bunch of Facebook lives or, YouTube or whatever, and get known that way. And then have people start coming to you for whatever it is that you're doing. It's really, I personally would think that unless you're selling a product, you really probably don't want to have VC or private equity money tied up into something because then you have to worry about somebody taking over your company.
Yes,
And there's lots of considerations for those things that you really have to go through. And I think that people don't make informed decisions enough. And I think that's really important.
I would agree. And, in my own perspective, I own my business. I do plenty of joint ventures, where we
Yes.
wholly own our own businesses, but come together for a certain purpose. And that's all specked out and all in the agreement. And I think that's a great way to do it, where you still maintain control of your own company without taking on a partner or whatnot. But I would agree. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes that's necessary if you have a product or you're trying to manufacture something or what have you. But definitely, you have to look at it from all sides. That's for sure.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I hear a lot, and I'm going to ask you this question, and you can answer it from either side. One of the things that I hear is business owners struggle as they're trying to grow to maintain quality. And I just wonder what your take on that is. Have you experienced that, or your parents, even in your family business, building out and scaling, if you will? Um, or trying to do that with your Angel Queen business, maintaining quality. Is that a consideration? Have you experienced that? And what are your thoughts of what the challenges may be and how to face them?
Absolutely. That is a huge consideration because if you're not maintaining quality, then you're not going to be able to maintain your client base. In both of my businesses, I don't advertise my lawyer business at all. I don't even have a website for my lawyer business. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have any of that. But I have a ton of clients that I turn away because I don't have the time to do their cases. So, in a personal services kind of business, what you have to do is you have to remember you cannot be everything to everyone all the time. Okay. So, there are a lot of resources that I give to my clients in both of my businesses. I am not equipped to help someone with an emotional breakdown to the point that they need therapy. Okay. I have a lot of clients that will come in and tell me what's going on. And I'm saying, here's a list of therapists in town. Please go see one of them because they will handle that. I charge way more than they do per hour. If you want me to listen to you, I'm happy to, but I don't have the capacity or the know how to help with that. I can get you through the legal part of that and I can tell you who to go to so that they can testify on your behalf. But I don't have the ability to help you through that particular thing. So I think that having a resource guide for your clients of things that are sort of like on the periphery of whatever you do,
Mhm.
but that you can give to them and say, go to this, go to that, go to whatever. So like on the Angel Queen side, sometimes people want to ask questions about their animals and things like that. Well, I'm not really good at that kind of a thing. So I have somebody that I send them to for that kind of thing. On my lawyer business, it's usually a mental health counselor or it's some kind of financial planner or forensic accountant or something like that. And so I have a list of resources that if something comes up, I can send them to these places. And then also remembering that you are helping them by sending them to the right person. Okay. You do not help them when you are doing something for your clients that is out of your wheelhouse. Be really great at whatever you do. You don't have to be really great at everything.
That's great advice. I love that. So I would love for you. I'm going to end the interview with 5 questions that I always ask. But before we do that, I want you to share just a little bit about what resources and things you offer with the Angel Queen. And I would love to put links to that in the show notes so everybody can go and grab them. Just talk about what you offer and what people that are listening or watching, how they could find out about what you offer and get access to it.
So, the biggest thing that I do is, like Maria said, every year at the beginning of the year, I do 100 days to loving yourself. And this year, I actually wrote a book during the 100 days.
Yeah.
And so it will be coming out probably later this year. I'm working on the editing part right now. But 100 Days to Loving Yourself is going to be automated soon. So you'll be able to start it at any time you want, not just at the beginning of the year. But if you want to get in my group, it's on Facebook. It's called The Angel Queen's Court. So it's a little play on both the Angel Queen and being a lawyer. But the Angel Queen's Court is a wonderful group of lovely people that are all there to love on themselves and to support each other. And we have daily affirmations. And during the 100 days, we have daily assignments. And that helps with the loving yourself. And I am happy to have people contact me in the Angel Queen's Court or on social media. I am the Angel Queen is my handle on all the social media. So you can see the daily affirmations on Instagram and Facebook, and on social media. I also have some affirmation cards that I am going to be putting out in the near future, and I think I just said this. We're going to automate the 100 days so that
Yes.
you can start it whenever you want. And oh, and we're doing an Angel Queen retreat,
Yes.
and I'll have more information about that later in the year. But all of that stuff will go to the Angel Queen's Court before anywhere else, because that's my group of core ladies and core people. There's some men in the group as well.
Mhm.
It's not just for women, it's also for men. And it's anybody that needs a little bit of love in their life to love themselves. And I would be happy to have all of the people that are listening to this podcast or video cast in the Angel Queen's Court.
So we will put those links in the show notes for you all so that you can go and grab them and get access to that after you listen or watch. Thank you for sharing that, Angela. And I'm excited for the retreat. So I am going to ask you the standard questions for takeaways on lessons learned. I would love you to think about, and thinking about your entrepreneurial experience, what is the biggest mistake you made and why was it a mistake?
Not trusting myself. And it was a mistake because when you don't trust yourself, you go down the wrong path. And it is hard to get off the path that you're on once you're on it. But if you start trusting your intuition about people, about things, about events, about what you ought to do, then it's so much easier moving forward.
Thank you for that. So what is the best piece of advice that you followed that you believe made you a better entrepreneur?
Be yourself. You cannot be somebody else. You have to be yourself. Everybody has their own special sauce. Okay. And everybody has something that's special about them. I mean, there's a gazillion lawyers in the world, right? I have a special thing that my clients like. And you have a special thing that your clients in whatever industry that you are going to be in like as well. And it's important to be yourself, not somebody else. Don't try to mimic your coach or your friend or your whoever that's also doing the same thing. Be yourself. Have your own little spin on something.
That's great. What's the number one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is starting or running their business?
Take one step at a time. You can have those big fuzzy goals like we talked about.
Mm.
But you don't have to meet your goal tomorrow, okay? And the other part of that is celebrate along the way. If you meet that
So,
little bitty benchmark that you set for yourself and you meet it tomorrow, we're going to celebrate it.
yeah, so important. So, ending the interview, I always like to ask what your biggest life lesson is, my life lesson. So, if you could answer this question or fill in the blank, my biggest life lesson is.
My biggest life lesson is loving yourself. I think that's the most important thing that you can do, because when you love the way that you are, you can move forward on everything that you're doing so much easier than if you are questioning yourself. Because when you stop loving yourself and when you don't love yourself, you're questioning what you're doing. Move forward as authentically as you can by loving yourself as you are right now, just as you are. I love Bridget Jones, the movie, when he says, I love you just as you are. You should love yourself just as you are.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for joining me today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope all of you listening and watching have enjoyed as well. Thank you for joining us, Angela.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria. I love you very much.
Love
I
you.
really appreciate you having me on your show.
Love you. It's been a pleasure. I had a blast today. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Finding the Upside. Bye for now.